All right, you're up.
All right. So Matt and I have been working closely together here. We are trying to get Matt to step away from the water report, not out of our choice. He's slowly turning over the water report to me. I am Mike Reber. On the trail I'm known as Wood Glue, and Matt Parker is also on the line, known on the trail as Double Tap. Starting off just about the water report, this is something that's available online. We have a website where this is all based, and information comes in from various sources, and specifically I, update the information on the website with field water report findings. There's other applications available. GutHooks is one, and that's helpful. Then we have information that comes into us via a phone number that we have set up and a email address that we have set up, and that information is scanned for or screened, I should say, for accuracy and quality control. And we're just looking for discrepancies. If somebody walked by a water source yesterday and says that there's water flowing in this creek, and then today there's a new report that comes in that says it's not flowing, we'll double check and look for verification that in fact they're talking about the same source, or if this is a different source. Try to have as accurate information, as good information as we can have showing up on the report. We also have fire updates and closures listed on the report. If there's a closure, there will be a reroute shown on there. We don't have a water report for the Sierra section with the abundance of water that we have up there. We don't have that, but we do have a Sierra snow and past conditions and water crossings report that we keep updated. And that's performed the same way. We have field observation reports that come in, and we update the information into the reports on the website the same way as the water report. This email address, water@pctwater.com, that's how you would bring your information into us for the water report, and you can lace that in with your inReach device, and you can email in water report information that you see real time. An example on how to do this is, hey, Wood Glue, I'm at mile 342, and the Tyler Horse Canyon is flowing easily 10 liters per minute, something like that. And then I'll receive that email and update the report accordingly. We're updating the report several times a day, especially between March and November. Right now, there's maybe one thing a week that gets updated into these reports, section hikers and weekend hikers, that kind of thing. We also have a Facebook page that's this PCT Water and Fire Update group, and this is a great place to upload your photos and videos of the water sources that you found, be a horse trough or a creek or whatever. There's a link here. You'll be able to click on these links with a PowerPoint presentation file that we'll put on the website, and all of these links will be clickable from there. If you have mileage points and your half-mile waypoints, meaning off of the half-mile maps, that information is what we need in order to update the report. So it's not just the section that you're in, but specifically half-mile point, half-mile waypoint 342.5. That would tell us specifically that you're referring to the Tyler Horse Canyon Creek. If you guys can mute your lines if you're not talking, that'll help keep some of the noise down. We do have a discrepancy between the half-mile waypoints and the gut hooks mileage points, and this is due to a change in the 2018 Section M. The trail was changed a little bit, so you can't use the gut hooks mileage points if you're reporting in on the PCT water report. These are the two means that you have to bring information into us. This is the email address, and then we've got this phone number set up. This is a Google Voice line, and you can text or leave a voicemail with your findings instead of sending an email. Any one of these three means achieve the same result with getting your findings into the report. The report is only as good and current as the updates coming from hikers, so it's extremely important that you guys send your information in. This is a crowdsourced document, and we're not. I just lost my screen. There we go. This is a crowdsourced document, so it's critical that we get the updates from the boots in the field. We've already kind of discussed the water report management, handing off from Matt Parker to Mike Reber. And anybody that has come in since our introduction, I am Mike Reber, and Matt Parker's on the line as well. We have E. coli that's been detected in Southern California in several areas over the past years. Lake Marina is the first place where this will be seen. The campground there at mile 20 has had reports of E. coli in the faucets there at the campground. And this is prevalent all the way up through, I want to say, close to Agua Dulce. I know there's a fire station at 420, maybe 420, mile 420, and that had E. coli in it last year. So it's everywhere, and it's important to filter and keep an eye on the water report because we do note the known sources of E. coli. California Section B, we had a really big storm last California Section B, we had a fire closure that was in effect for several years, and that was lifted in January of 2019. But since they've lifted that, a lot of trees fell in a big storm that we had in February of 2019. So there's a lot of trees crossing the trail, and I actually got lost in this exact area here when I went through it in April. So it's an easy spot to get lost, and just keep an eye on where the trail is because there's switchbacks and then you got trees laying across the trail. There's also a rock slide that happened at mile 172.5, and this is something that we've been keeping an eye on. There's such a document as San Jacinto Trail Report, and I'll talk more about this later, but as of last week we got an update on that report. And the PCT remains open. Forest Service has stated that there's currently no plans to close this section due to the rock slide. It's a huge rock that goes across the trail on a very steep portion of the trail. And at this link here, there's a video that shows how to get around the rock. There's a rope that was installed, and you can kind of hang onto the rope. But if you doubt your ability when you get there, there's a detour noted on the water report, and you can find a way around this part of the trail without having to cross over or around this rock. Things that are new for 2020, really big in the PCT world, is the half-mile PCT maps are no longer available online. If you have a copy of these maps, they are somewhat coveted at this point. New National Geographic PCT maps are available at this web link here, pctmap.net. And I think it's $130, right, Matt, to buy the entire section, the entire PCT.
I think, yeah, so it's close to that area. That's what I heard.
Yeah. We do also, we've heard that these maps may or don't include the mile markers, so I'm not sure how well that's going to work for backpackers.
I think they've maintained the same waypoint names though that Half Mile had on his maps, at least for the ones that I've seen so far. So I think it's really important when people are sending in updates that, you know, if don't just list the mileage point, but also list the waypoint name if you can.
So for example, instead of just mile 342.5, you say Tyler Horse Canyon also.
Correct, yeah. And per your earlier comment on Gut Hook, they may have matched up finally after that change to Section M, but many times over the last 2 years, I got reports where the number wasn't correct because they were using the Gut Hook numbers. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're using Gut Hook and sending those numbers in. You can
in 27. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, all that can be solved if you just give us the waypoint name.
Very good. In 2017, Matt started keeping track of the Sierra snow passes and fords information, and this will be continued. This became a really valuable document for people. There's a lot of talk that starts to happen all the way up through Southern California about the snow in the Sierras and the doomsday, and we try to keep as much accurate information in this report as possible. So if you guys are going over a pass or you're fording across a certain river, we'll be keeping that information updated with your findings. So please send that in.
One comment on that, Woodglue?
Sure.
So this is where the Facebook page really comes in handy because that's where you guys can upload photos and videos. And what Woodglue can do is he's going to create by section albums in there, like California Section H is the Sierras. And a picture or a video's ideal is worth so much more than just a verbal description of a high Sierra pass or a dangerous water crossing. And
definitely.
So please send those in when you get back into cell coverage because that'll really help the hikers who are behind you.
In addition to the water report webinar, we've had Sierra webinars in each of the past years. One of particular interest is from 2017. That was our big snow year, and we've also got a link here for the Sierra webinar that we had last year. We kind of used the 2017 Sierra snow as the basis of looking at current snow or future years because we really know what happened up there in 2017. This is the Mount San Jacinto Trail Report, and this is really valuable as you're hiking from Mount Laguna all the way up through at mile 40 all the way up through, say, Brightwood and Big Bear, 369 up there. This information weather-wise will be a lot the same just because of the altitude, the geographic location of Mount San Jacinto in comparison to Brightwood and Mount Laguna. There is a gentleman by the name of John King that, I kid you not, he's probably hiked Mount San Jacinto 13 times last month, and he does it for the sake of this report and telling us about not just the PCT but other trails up there, about the findings of snow, new snow, old snow, frozen conditions, and he's got a YouTube channel, San Jacinto Trail Report, where he does a little video. Probably once a week he puts another video up of him looking at different things. And by the way, that video that I had earlier of how to walk around this rock, that's his video. Really dedicated individual helping out the trail there. Double Tap put together a video on post-trail life and depression, and this is something that he could probably speak to better than I can.
Yeah, so not to spend too much time on this, but you might want to just watch this before you guys hit the trail. I interviewed 8 or 9 through hikers a couple of years ago and just compiled all the information on all their experiences when they come home. Doesn't mean you're going to come home and experience post-trail depression, but a majority of hikers do for a variety of reasons. So you just might want to take a look at it. And one other point on the note above for Mount San Jacinto, that's around mile 180, 190. And not a lot of people realize that you're going to hit snow in the high desert. Mount San Jacinto is a humongous mountain. It's almost 11,000 feet high, and you're going to hit snow there. So that's why Wood Glue is spending some time on Mount San Jacinto.
Yeah. This is the PCT Water Report webpage when you first go to it, and you can, this is at pctwater.com, and the sections of Water Report are broken up into these categories here. You can click on these, and one example is you'll get Campo to Idlewild. So this is miles 0 through 178, I believe. And then that looks like this. You can see when we last updated the document was on January 17th, and this is the type of information that comes in. So at mile 2.7 here, there's a seasonal creek, and the last report came in from Victor on May 15th, saying that there's a pool 2 feet deep by the bridge. I would look at that today and guess that pool, that information is kind of out of date. We would definitely need some updated information in there. But it's good to know that water was there in May, and then you can start thinking about different storms that we may have had in the area that would change this. As you get down, there's some other information. This is what I was talking about earlier, the Lake Marina campground. This is at mile 20, and E. coli warning is still posted in the campground there. So there's a malt shop at mile 20. Great pastrami sandwich, by the way. You can go in there, and they sell water out of a machine at 35 cents a gallon. And this information is pretty up to date, just a couple weeks ago. So you would be able to glean from this what you could expect to find on the trail as you came through. There's going to be water at mile 4.4. There's going to be water at mile 12.2. Or I'm sorry, 12.2 is dry. But you can kind of get an idea of what to expect. One thing you can do is you can cache the water report into your cell phone, and there's some instructions here on how to go through that process. This takes the documents off of our website and puts them on your cell phone, so that you can have the water report for each of the sections. Water caches throughout Southern California, and even as you get up into drier sections of the Sierra, Oregon, and Washington, there's water caches quite prevalent. They should not be relied upon. One reason why is the stream that runs through the canyon is somewhat predictable. You know that it was flowing a gallon a minute a week ago. It's going to be flowing a gallon a minute today, probably. They're going to dry up a lot slower than a water cache will. There is a hugely increased number, a huge increase in the number of hikers that we have coming up the trail, and as a result, these water caches can quickly dry up. Here's some detailed information on the Third Gate water cache, and this cache is probably one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, water cache that's on the entire PCT. This is at mile 91.2, and you can see the numbers here. We just got the 2019 numbers in from the Trail Angel that heads up this water cache. This came in yesterday, and just unbelievable the amount of gallons of water that they've brought in over the years. I talk about the water cache drying up over in the span of 24 hours. This Trail Angel actually told me the third week of April last year they used 53 gallons of water, and the third week of April the previous year was 46 gallons of water. So you can see how much water is being consumed there, and you know, it could just be a matter of you getting there after the person emptied the last bottles. Even this cache went dry a few times over the previous years. There are signs posted at each of these water caches telling you the water distance, or the distance to travel to get to the next water. And here I've noted that the San Ysidro Creek is 14 miles north of the Third Gate water cache. There's actually a barrel spring that's 8 miles away from this water cache, but that spring has been contaminated for the last several months, so I haven't included that in here. But as the through hikers start to come through, that spring may be cleaned up, and that'll be noted on the water report. If you get down into this third gate water cache area, there are a lot of campsites. You're welcome to camp down there, but no campfires, please. This is an example of the kind of water sources that you'll encounter in the Southern California area. I've dipped my pot down into wells that have salamanders in them, and filtered water out of cow troughs, and there's one Thule spring that's at mile, I want to say 280 or something like that. That's just rusty brown water, and you filter it, it's clear and it tastes funny, and you drink it. I always carried something to put in the water, like a lemonade or punch powder or something like that to help the flavor. Contaminated water is prevalent. I was just talking about the barrel spring, and this is actually a photograph from 2015 from the barrel spring. And these tanks that the water is in prior to it coming out to the spigot that you're filtering from, sometimes you can have dead rodents inside those, or whatever bad stuff is hanging out in these. So filtering is very important. If there's a lid on the cistern or the tank that you're pulling water from, be sure to replace that lid. That's what keeps rodents out. These are the dry sections that you'll encounter on the PCT, mile 1 through 19. Mile 19 is Lake Marina, and so you have a big climb there. That's Hauser Canyon, and that can be very hot in the late afternoons. I went through that section at probably 2:30 in the afternoon, and it was in the end of March, and it's just blistery hot climbing up that thing, and it's fully exposed, and you'll drink a lot of water. It's okay to start off that initial section from Campo up to Lake Marina and do it in 2 days. It's 20 miles to get up there. There's a lot of camping available prior to Hauser Canyon, and you guys can just elect to find a spot there and settle down, and then climb the mountain, climb the Hauser Canyon the next day.
Yeah, one comment, Mike, if I may interject.
Sure.
So I thru hiked in 2014. This is double top, by the way. And I saw multiple hikers have to end their hike at Lake Morena just 20 miles in because they tried to hike that first 20 miles in one day.
Yeah, all the planning and all the prepping that you do to
Yep.
end it in the first 20 miles.
And it wasn't just one person. It was a lot of people. So just
Yeah.
keep that in mind when you're when you're hiking on that first day because it takes a while to build up to 20-mile days, no matter how good a shape you're in.
Yeah. The next section you'll come across is mile 186, and this is the North Fork of San Jacinto. So it's 20 miles from the peak of San Jacinto, or from the San Jacinto Creek down to the water faucet, the water fountain actually, that's at the bottom of Mount San Jacinto. And that's a pretty long climb, and you're going in a fully exposed area again. You might be up on San Jacinto and it's the high is 70 degrees, and in one day you're down at the bottom of San Jacinto into what we've coined as the frying pan, which is Highway 10 at mile 206, 209, and it could be 100 degrees, 115 degrees down there on the same day. So it's a huge temperature swing. The next area will be mile 342, the Cajon Pass, Highway 15. So this is where you have the infamous McDonald's on at the Cajon Pass, and after that McDonald's, you're walking all the way up to Guffey Spring, which has water in it in the springtime, but it does dry up relatively early. So it's a big 6,000 foot climb, and not a whole lot of places to camp along there because it's switchbacks. It's real steep incline backcountry. And with Guffey Spring drying up several times over the last few years, there's a long water carry there. Then you come down out of the mountains, and all the way from Guffey Spring to 3 mile 420, you're in the mountains, and it's nice pine tree area, and there's water sources throughout. But then you get into the other side of Agua Dulce, and mile 518 brings you down into Hiker Town, and from Hiker Town at mile 518, it's a desert walk, and it's 24 miles to get to Tyler Horse Canyon. This section is the infamous Aqueduct Road walk. You're walking on the aqueduct, you're walking on the dirt road, and a lot of people will elect to hike this during the nighttime just because they want to avoid the heat of the day. Then you get into Section F, and this is known as one of the driest sections of the PCT. Hikers usually arrive here later in the season just because it's so high in the miles, so far north. And this is just outside of Tehachapi up towards Walker Pass. So you'll have multiple 30-mile sections where there's no water. Hat Creek Rim is higher up in Section N, more 30-mile waterless sections, and you'll get up into even mile 1386 here. You have a spring at 1386, and hikers are getting up there late in the summer, July and August. They're in this section here, and it can definitely be dry, long carries, fully exposed with very little shade. And then even higher up, mile 1823, Crater Lake Rim, you have a 26-mile carry there before you get to the Thielsen Creek. So it's something to watch out for, something to keep an eye on. Always have water carrying capacity. You don't necessarily have to carry the water, but you need the way to carry the water if you come across these sections. California Section A, and this is kind of what we were talking about before with Campo to Mount Laguna. Campo to Lake Marina would be 20 miles. Campo to Mount Laguna is 40 miles. And all the way up to Warner Springs. So throughout Section A, we're kind of breaking it down here. You can start with at least 5 to 6 liters of water. That's starting at Campo with that much water. And then you can have water 20 miles later at Lake Marina at the malt shop. You do have the big climb there. You might do this in 2 days, so 5 to 6 liters would definitely help you get through that. Don't rely on these water caches. Plan on using reliable water sources. On the water report, we show reliable water sources with blue text, and these are streams that are not seasonal that we know will typically run all year long. We'll show that with blue text. Allow for a consumption rate of at least 1 liter for every 4 to 5 trail miles, and that could even go up if you get into, hotter areas, hotter months. You know, like I say, if you're at Highway 10 on a hot day, you got to climb from Highway 10, mile 209, up to Big Bear, and that's a huge amount of climb, and you're fully exposed. Download the water report from the website, and it'll be updated daily. So, you know, whenever you have cell coverage, hit that website and get the latest report. You can download it into a PDF version on your phone, or if you cached it, you're getting the Google Sheets with the caching instructions that were at the beginning of the webinar. Send the water report information into the email address, or you can text or leave a voicemail message at this phone number. What I've done is just save the phone number into my phone as the PCT water report, and I walk by it and I can just text now myself, or before it was texting double tap, my findings at the stream at such and such mile marker. Reliable water sources. This has changed since last year. We had more water sources in here before, and I'll explain why. Mile 20, the malt shop, we're showing good water there, and it's 6 miles to the next water. Boulder Oaks Campground is at mile 26, and then after that, 17 miles to Mount Laguna Lodge Store. You can get water there, and then it's 16 miles up to mile 59 at the Sunrise Trailhead. Previously, we had a Rodriguez truck trail water tank that was known here, but it hasn't been operational for more than 6 months now. So we're taking that out, and that made these spans, these distances grow. I'm sorry. Then you get to mile 77 is Scissors Crossing, and this is a place where a lot of people get off trail for the first time. They can hitch into Julian, which is only 13 miles away, or you can head south for a hitch or hike down to Stagecoach Trails RV Park. There's a water cache at 14 that may or may not be in operation this year, but it was last year, and there was water there when I went through in December. After that, you have another water cache. This is the third gate water cache that we talked about before. This is the biggest water cache on the PCT, and that's 14 miles after Scissors Crossing cache. So you can look at this. If you say I'm not going to use these water caches, and I'm going to go from Sunrise Trailhead at mile 59 to the San Ysidro Creek at mile 105, you know, you have a huge carry there between these two. After the San Ysidro Creek, it's 5 more miles to Warner Springs Resource Center. California Section F. Double tap if you want to speak to this.
Yeah, so we put this slide in here because Section F is your most challenging section per water strategy. And that's just because there's multiple very long stretches in there. And we've highlighted them here, and the next slide kind of talks about them in more detail. The only ones you can really rely upon in this whole section for natural water sources is mile 602 Robinbird and mile 609 Landers Camp. Every time I've been up there, they've always been running. In the 5 years I've been managing the water report, I never got a report saying that it stopped running. So those are extremely reliable. The there is at Golden Oaks at 583. That one's kind of hit or miss, and that one's 17 miles in after you start from the highway out of Tehachapi. So you have to assume the worst when it comes to ones that aren't ultra reliable, and more especially you have to assume the worst when it comes to any kind of water caches, because there are two water caches in this section that are pretty well maintained. One's at mile 616, also known as Kelso Valley Road, and the other's at mile 630, which is Bird Spring Pass. The problem, though, is that even though they're well maintained, the person who comes up and refills them, they come up, they refill them, and literally 24 hours later, they're gone. And that's because there's so many more hikers on the trail, and every year it's increasing. You even saw that with the PowerPoint slide that Wood Glue showed on the Third Gate water cache on how many gallons are being used every year, and it's just going up. So you just have to always think that the water caches are going to be empty, and if they're not when you get to them, hey, it's a good surprise, but never rely on them. And when you get to that California Section F, really sit down and look at your maps and assume the worst and think, how many gallons do I need? I'm sorry, how many liters do I need to get to the next water source? And there's a potential 42-mile waterless stretch in this section, and it's pretty hot and dry at times. So study the slide, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask Wood Glue or myself. That's it.
Some more detail on Section F.
Yeah, we just go into a little more detail here. I'm not going to go through each of these points, but I talked about a lot of these. You can see the ones in yellow, Golden Oaks, and the two water caches, Kelso Valley and Bird Spring. You can't really rely on them. Although 583 Golden Oaks has gotten a little bit better over the last few years. A couple years ago, some cows damaged the water source, so the cows didn't like hikers apparently, and the water was not running. But Robinbird at 602 and Landers Campground at 609, extremely reliable sources. And one other note, just kind of as a funny point, can you go back to the previous slide? So that picture, I took that in 2014 or 2012, I can't remember. That is Landers Campground Spring. That's mile 609. One of the ones I said was really reliable. However, one year when I was there, I literally saw a hiker, put his bandana inside that trop and then wipe his butt with it. So just because, don't ask me why he did it, but always filter, especially in Southern California, because you just never know where this water has been.
Jeez.
Yeah.
People don't think when they're hiking through the Southern California desert that there's going to be snow, but you can encounter snow 5 times before you get to Agua Dulce at mile 450. The first time could be just 40 miles in at Mount Laguna. Usually this is a light snow, and it melts quickly, and it's not very dangerous. Mount San Jacinto, this is the first dangerous mountain. This is running mile 170 through 191, and there is the, correct me, it's the name of the ridge is
Fuller?
escaping me. Fuller Ridge, yeah. And this is a steep, switchbacky kind of trail, and when this is snowy and icy, this can be pretty dangerous. In 2005, there was a PCT hiker that died in this area during a snowstorm, not related to the switchback area, but the switchback area can be extremely slippery and icy. And this is where I point to the San Jacinto Trail Report. John King will talk about, this is strictly limited to crampons and ice axe, for example. This is Then at a certain point in the season, he'll downgrade it to you'll be okay through here with your micro spikes and your trekking poles. So it's a good resource to have where he's boots on the ground on that trail, and he's seen the fuller ridge, and he knows he'll say, for example, nobody's been down it yet this season. He goes up there often enough. He looks for the footprints, and he knows if somebody's walked down that fuller ridge or not. Then you get down into the frying pan, and on the map, that's kind of right here between San Jacinto and Big Bear. And you climb up the mountain to Big Bear, and there will be snow up there again. Usually the trail's pretty even keel, a good tread level, and you're not going to get into too dangerous of a situation in the Big Bear area. But then you come into the Wrightwood area and Mount Baden-Powell, and that's kind of over this way. You got Wrightwood here and Mount Baden-Powell. Mount Baden-Powell is, the PCT actually climbs this mountain, and that's switchback after switchback after switchback going up that. And if you get there real early in the season, like I saw some pictures on Facebook today, some people were hiking, and the trail is just straight up because they're not traversing the switchbacks. You can't see them anymore. It's covered in snow. So this can be a pretty dangerous area. And you can have snow after that all the way, I would say, for another 30 miles before you finally start dropping down into Acton and those kind of places. Double Tap took these pictures in February of last year, and really, really cool to see the different stretches of mountain. In the foreground, you have Mount Baden-Powell, and Mount Baldy, and PCT is kind of rumbling across this mountain ridge here. Then you got Section D. On the left, you got Mount Baden-Powell and Baldy, and then over here you got San Gorgonio and the Big Bear area. And you're hiking through both of those sections. So there's definitely snow in Southern California. Mount San Gorgonio, which is Southern California's tallest mountain. I think that's 11,503 feet. And Mount San Jacinto. And then you have Mount San Gorgonio again in the back here, and Mount San Jacinto. I think that's it right there. I'm not sure though.
Actually, that's all Mount San Jacinto.
Yeah, that nose right there gives it away. So this will be Warner Springs down in this area, mile 109, all the way through mile 206 would be down here. Double Tap if you want to talk about the snow in the Sierras.
Yeah, so I actually live in Reno, Nevada now, and right on the east side of Lake Tahoe, and the snow so far this year, it started out really good, but it's really tapered off in the last month, which is not uncommon in the Sierra. January's kind of a dry month, strangely enough. But what Wood Glue is showing here is the snowpack for the North Central and South Sierra, where the dark blue line is where we're at right now, and the light blue section, that's average. So you could see we're just below average so far, but there's still a lot of winter left. February and March and even April can bring a lot more snow, so it's really kind of hard to say what the Sierra is going to be like at this point. As a point of reference, we put the red line, which was our heaviest snow winter on record, which was 1983, but more importantly, the light green line in between, that was 2017. So you may have heard a lot of stories about the PCT class of 2017, the class of fire and ice, because they had a ton of snow to deal with and they had a lot of fire detours to deal with. That was an extremely tough year to thru hike the PCT. So the link that we have at the top there, you can click on that and you can go see it. And they update it pretty regularly, so you can get an idea of what kind of snow levels you're going to get in the Sierra. But long story short, we still got a lot of winter left, so it's kind of hard to say what it's going to be like by the time you guys hit the Sierra. That's it. Oh, yeah, water crossings. So this is actually probably the most dangerous aspect of hiking the PCT, to be honest. Unfortunately, we're not trying to be alarmist and scare you. We just want to properly educate you guys on what you face. In 2017, we unfortunately lost 2 hikers. They drowned, and that's at mile 811 and mile 980. That's why we got them in red there. So the first one is in Kings Canyon National Park, and then the second one, Rancheria, is in Yosemite National Park. Now it was a high snow year, so that didn't help. But actually, those hikers drowned. I believe it was late June, early July, so it was actually kind of late into the PCT hiking season. Now, there's a lot. You could probably take classes. Maybe your local RAI will, give you some feedback here, some classes on how to properly cross dangerous fords. We're always looking for good videos of groups crossing dangerous fords, just anything that we can help educate the current hiking class. But just a few just points of interest, which I didn't even realize till I started hiking a lot, 10, 15 years ago in California. But crossing early in the morning can make a big difference. And when I first heard this, I kind of laughed. I was like, really? But I've seen it firsthand. There was a trip in Yosemite I did years ago where I had to cross into the backpackers campsite in Yosemite Valley, and the water came up to like my ankles. And then by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock that night, it was up to my mid thigh. So it makes sense. The sun is melting more snow as the day goes on, and more water, more volume is coming down those valleys. So if you know you got a dangerous crossing coming up, you might want to camp as close to it so that you cross it earlier in the morning. The second point there, it's more safe to cross in a group. I'm sure you could, Google or go on YouTube and find many videos of people crossing as a group. And then the third point is you don't have to cross where the trail crosses. Just because the trail ends right there into the creek doesn't mean you can't hike upstream. And if you don't feel comfortable crossing right there, there's going to be a lot of places in the Sierra, especially if you get more snow, where you're not going to feel comfortable. Go upstream a bit. And this might require a little bit of bushwhacking. The most notorious crossing on the PCT is Bear Creek at mile 869, which we've listed here on this slide. And by the way, these are not the only dangerous slides. There's many more. These are just the notoriously bad ones. And Bear Creek, even in an average snow winter, by the time you guys are what we call the herd is hitting the Sierra, which could be early June to late June time frame, many people have to go up to a mile upstream from where Bear Creek, or from where the PCT crosses Bear Creek. So just always keep that in mind. It's give yourself more time. You're going to slow down in the Sierra, especially because you're just, there's a lot of snow, and it's slow to hike on, and you can post hole in the afternoon. So, yeah, and then this is more just for informational purposes. These are all the passes that you're going to cross in the Sierra, and if you want to get more information on the pass strategy, watch those Sierra webinars, the 2017 and 2019 one. Ned Tibbetts is on both of those, and he's got years of experience hiking in the snow, so he gives a lot of good advice and feedback. But the main thing here you want to try is try to cross over the passes, or camp as close to the pass as possible, and get up and over the pass as early as possible. But where you have to find that fine line in between is you don't want to go up too early because it might be real icy on top of the pass. And so this is where you get into the whole discussion of crampons versus microspikes, which we go into detail at length in those Sierra videos. And that's it.
I've updated the PCT closures, so there is a website that the PCTA puts out, and this is the link here. You can find it real easily with their website. And they're currently listing out a Section C. It's not a closure. The PCT is still open, but this is a result of the storms that we had February of last year. We had a lot of flooding in the area, and Whitewater Preserve was damaged, and the Mission Creek area was damaged, and the PCT in that area is damaged. So we had an entire class walk through this area last spring, and I'm sure it'll happen again. There's just a lot of damage in the area. There is a ongoing quasi-permanent endangered species closure in Section D, and you can learn more about that here. There's several different road walks that you can there's a road walk you can do. There's a 20-mile reroute to go around 4 miles of trail, that kind of stuff. You can check that out at that link. And then we had a closure up at the Eagle Creek from the Eagle Creek fire in Oregon that was lifted. And this is just the notification for that. A lot of trails in the area are still closed as a result of the fire, but the PCT is open.
One comment on that, Mike.
Yep.
So almost all the hikers don't take the official PCT there. They take the Tunnel Creek detour. I'm sorry, a Tunnel Falls detour, because it's just beautiful, and Tunnel Falls is a really cool thing to see. Unfortunately, that is still closed as far as we know. So while the PCT is open, the most typical path is not for PCT hikers. And Mike will be updating these closures on the water report. We should probably change it from the water report to the PCT report, because it's more than just the water report. We tried really hard to make it a one-stop shop for the hikers in terms of not only water, but closures information, fire detour information, Sierra passes and snow and water crossings.
Beehives and
yeah,
poodle dog bush, and yeah.
Exactly. But it's only as good as the information you guys are sending in to Mike.
Speaking of fires, knowledge is power, and this PCT trail closures page that we just talked about is a good resource. The Facebook group for the water report will have information on there, and then you can also download this Firefinder app and stay on top of what's happening. Bottom line is, don't mess around with the fires. It's extremely dangerous to be hiking in an area. Just the smoke is enough to cause problems for your hiking days.
Yeah, these things move really fast, and every year I hear of hikers disregarding closures on the trail because they want to keep a continuous footpath, which we completely understand, but it's not worth putting your lives at risk. And it's not just your life, not only with fires, but just try to make smart decisions, because not only are you putting your life in danger, you're putting search and rescue people's lives in danger if they have to come find your ass.
Yeah. Poodle dog bush is a nasty thing. This pops up in areas after fires and all over the place in Southern California, and with multiple fires throughout 2016 and 2017. This bush is now seen in sections C, D, E, and F, and there's a lot of information about it out there, but generally there's poisonous spines on these plants that you brush up against them, and they'll make you sick. We've had all these fires in the various areas, and that's where this stuff grows. It's an ingenious plant. It'll grow up to prevent erosion after a fire, but it's nasty. So there's a difference between poodle dog bush and poison oak. We also have poison oak here. You'll see poison oak a lot in low areas, especially as you get around creeks, and so you're down there kneeling to filter your water or whatever, and you could well be in the poison oak leaves of California that we've always had to watch out for poison oak. And I've had poison oak a lot of times, but man, I watch out for the poodle dog bush. That is some nasty stuff.
Yeah, just one comment on that. The poodle dog bush, I always describe it as poison oak on steroids. And It
Yeah.
actually emits a smell that's very similar to someone smoking weed.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. You
so
could smell it before you'll see it.
yeah, and definitely don't smoke it. But that's usually a good giveaway. Now you're going to see a lot of people and smell a lot of people smoking weed on the trail too. So it's not always poodle dog bush, but if you're all by yourself and you smell weed, it's a good chance poodle dog bush is very close to you, and it can be literally right on the trail, especially in a recently burned area. Because correct me if
Yeah,
I'm
and
wrong
it'll.
on this, Mike. The seeds they lie dormant in the soil until the heat of the fire makes them grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really interesting how the plant works. But it'll look different from different times of the year. You'll have these green stalks, and these are the spines I'm talking about with the green area. Beautiful flowers. But then in the as the season goes on, you'll get these dead stalks, and this whole thing will grow dead, and it's just in the spring as it is in the fall, and just stay away from. So that's me. I'm wood glue and double tap. And Half Mile is the guy who invented the water report. He invented the half mile maps, and he's really contributed hugely to the Pacific Crest Trail adventure. If you guys have any questions, we're
Pretty quiet bunch.
Hi,
yeah,
this is Bob Pritchard. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes,
This is really helpful. I'm looking forward to starting the PCT March 15th, and your report is invaluable. And early on in your presentation, you mentioned about filing water reports, and you referenced the half-mile maps, but since they're not available, and I think you also said the National Geographic maps don't have mileage on them, and yet all of us, well, I guess the vast majority will have gut hook. Wouldn't it be more pragmatic to reference gut hook when you're filing a water report?
So I'll tackle that one, wood glue. So we tried to work with the Gut Hooks team a couple years ago. Both teams wanted to work together to share the information. Unfortunately, our sites are so different, and the way we compile the information, it would be an extremely manual process, which is so time consuming.
Right.
The good news is that the Nat Geo maps, they're using the same waypoint names that Half Mile was using on his 2019 maps. So that's going to be a consistent thing that you see on the water report this year. The problem with Gut Hook, and they may have fixed this, is that for the last couple of years, the mileage points weren't matching up with Half Miles maps because of the additional 2 miles they added to California Section M back in 2018. So we kind of have to pick one or the other, and we're gonna stick with Half Miles maps because Half Mile and the water report have always walked hand in hand.
Right. And I understand. And I presume there's still the maps aren't available anymore,
On the black market.
though. Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I'm still deciding whether to acquire the Nat Geo maps. I've always used Gut Hook on the AT and now on the PCT, so I thought that would be my map of reference. But I'll do you think there'd be markers on Gut Hook that would be, not the mileage markers, but just reference to a, waypoint on the trail that might still be useful?
I think they do reference the old Half Mile waypoint names. And majority of hikers, including myself, when I hiked in 2014, I use both. Because the way I look at it is I'm going to arm myself with as much information as possible so that I make a safe, educated decision. It really boggles my mind that there are people out there who just use gut hooks and don't use the water report too. And there's some people who just use the water report and don't use gut hooks, which makes a little more sense because maybe you don't want to pay for gut hooks. But
Sure.
if you have the budget, you might as well, utilize the free water report service, which, by the way, everything that Wood Glue is doing here is free, you
Yep.
know. And then if you have the budget to purchase gut hooks too, then get it, because we get, not all hikers update both. We get updates at the water report, and I'm sure gut hooks gets, updates from hikers who don't update the water report. So I would use both. But this is definitely a pivotal year for the PCT because of half miles maps not being available for 2020. If you can get your hands on an old 2019 set, though, they're still going to be extremely valid.
Right.
There's going to be some changes, of course, but the trail hasn't changed. The PCT hasn't changed any of the sections, although Wood Glue is telling me that maybe in the next few years they are going to add some to California Section E, but there's no changes between 2019 and 2020 that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else with questions?
Thanks for your time, gentlemen.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're probably done, Wood Glue. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now.
Very good. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate everybody